Today we are going to conclude chapter 8 by finishing the last part, which was performing the preliminary analytical procedure. And actually we said last time that the preliminary analytical procedures are to be done at the beginning of the audit, especially in or during the phase of planning. This is why last time I explained that the analytical procedure are including comparisons of ratios and looking for the unusual items, and this time only to show you what are the main purpose and the timing of the application of the analytical procedure. Actually, I explained that last time, but I didn't show you the slides, but actually here we are keep talking about the analytical procedure, and we are saying that we can apply the analytical procedure during the planning phase. And actually this is what we just said, because actually we said whenever we are doing the plan for the audit, we have to do some analytical preliminary analytical procedure in order to understand the business and to assess the risk, as we explained. We are using the data during planning, okay, at high level and sophistication, which means we are not getting into details, because the details will be used whenever we move to the second time that we are using the analytical procedure, which is the testing phase. The testing phase, okay? During the testing phase, we are within the organization, we are in the field work, and actually we are doing the audit. So actually whatever have been identified as unusual during the first time using the analytical procedure actually will be investigated more, This is why we are saying that the analytical procedure here is to be considered as one of the substantive tests. Substantive test, which means test of details. And it is done, or those tests are to be done in conjunction with other audit procedures. Yani in order to support the other types of evidence that we have used before. And actually, the assurance to be provided by the analytical procedure is depending on the predictability of relation. For example, we are expecting always that the profitability of the company and at least must be maintained or to be enhanced every year. So actually, this is a prediction that we have to keep in mind while we are addressing the profitability of the company. And this is what I'm going to show you after 2 slides. Actually here, the analytical procedure are also required during the completion phase. When we complete the audit, actually, we have to collect all of this data, document all the audit procedures that have been done, and this must be sent to the senior auditor or the partner in order to assess if the audit team have done the audit procedure correctly or not. How he will do that? He will use the analytical procedure. He will do the analytical procedure once. This is why here we are emphasizing on the analytical procedure, because actually we said before that the analytical procedures, okay, are one of the most important audit evidence type, and it is one of the most substantive tests, okay? So actually here, when you can look to that, we see again that the analytical procedure timing are 3 timing. We are using at planning, using during the test or during the audit, 3 to assure the rightness of the audit report to be used. Regarding the expectation that we was talking about, actually we have 5 types of analytical procedure. The first, that the auditor will compare the ratios with the industry average. Yes, we said that before. We can compare it with prior period data. Okay. Client determined expected result, like the budget to be prepared at the beginning of the year by the company itself. Auditor determined expected results. The auditor himself may have some expectation because actually he did audit for that client before, so he will have some expectation that he can يعني use it as a benchmark for comparison. Expected result using non-financial data. Yes, even the non-financial data can be used or analyzed under the analytical procedure, because actually you are going to compare between what is applied by the company and what is the manual saying. يعني for example, if I'm talking about the internal control system, the internal control system saying that you cannot go inside the company unless you have an ID. This is what is the manual saying. But what is actually happening, this is another thing, another issue. So expectation can be done also to the non-financial data. By that, we reach it for a milestone بقى, which is test your understanding for what I just said. Okay. Now we are going to move for a new concept, which is the concept of materiality to audit. Materiality is a very important concept, okay, to be discussed here. طبعا actually this is the steps that we have covered in the first part of the chapter, and actually the last was to perform the preliminary analytical procedure. Now we move to the materiality, and we said the materiality is a major consideration in determining the appropriate audit report to issue. يعني if you remember in chapter 3, the types of audit report, one of the main criteria was the materiality. Because if the misstatement is immaterial, you still can issue standard unmodified report. But if it is material or highly material, you have to take another decision by qualifying your opinion, for example, or by taking مثلا a disclaimer or an adverse type of report decision. So actually materiality is very important in determining the type of the audit report. طبعا one of the main responsibility of the auditor to find out whether the financial statements are materially misstated. This is one of the main objectives of audit. If there is a material misstatement, the auditor will bring it to the client attention so the correction can be made. If the management reviews, then we have to take another decision as we just explained. Right. The FASB 2 define materiality as, this is the definition by book, as they are saying, for the materiality. The magnitude of an omission or misstatement of accounting information that, in the light of surrounding circumstances, makes it probable that the judgment of a reasonable person relying on information would have been changed or influenced by the omission or misstatement. يعني actually here he is talking that if an omission for specific information will affect the decision of the user, this information would be material. The phrase obtain reasonable assurance is intended to inform users that the auditor did not guarantee or ensure the fair presentation of the financial statement. As we said also before, that the auditor is not guaranteeing that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. Okay, we are only providing reasonable assurance. Okay, because actually again, we cannot provide as auditors that the financial statements are free from immaterial amount, because it is immaterial. But I don't care if there is immaterial amounts, because actually materiality is the key concept, as we said before, in order to take the decision related to the audit report. And actually, whenever you are looking for materiality, you will find that the risk comes as one package with the materiality, because both are to be used in planning and in doing audit. And as we said before, one of the main steps that we have taken in the last topic, or in the last chapter, in planning for an audit, is to assess the risk. So actually here we have to consider the materiality along with the risk. After we understood what do we mean by materiality, we have to have, actually now we finished, of course, the first 4 steps, as you can see, and now we are talking on the first step in chapter 9, which is to set materiality and to assess the acceptable audit risk and inherent risk. and this is a very important step to be taken during the plan. Don't forget ان احنا we still talking about planning, okay, and designing an audit approach. Right. How to do that? Actually, we have 5 steps that we have to follow in order to set the materiality and to assess the acceptable audit risk and inherent risk. Step 1 is to set the preliminary judgment about materiality. 2, allocate the preliminary judgment about materiality to segments. Okay, and then estimate the total misstatement in segment, estimate the combined misstatement, and to compare combined estimates with preliminary or revised judgment about materiality. Actually, this will be planning extent of test, yani during the plan, and this is to evaluate the result that we have reached at the end of the audit. Right, let's go for the first one. Step 1, which is set the preliminary judgment about materiality. Right. We have to agree that materiality is a relative rather than an absolute concept. And the bases are needed in order to evaluate materiality. يعني, which means in the materiality, I cannot say that a specific number is that material. Actually, an amount can be material in one company, and it can be immaterial in another company. طيب يبقى احنا we have to have some base. Like some of the auditing firm are using the specific ratios out of maybe net income, total assets, total revenues, maybe a combination of 1 or 2 or 3 of these measures. So actually here, in order to set the preliminary judgment about materiality, we have to decide that early in the audit. خلاص? What is the combined amount of misstatement that we would consider material? So the preliminary judgment is the maximum amount by which the auditor believes the statement to be misstated and still not affects the decision of the reasonable user. Right. Accounting and auditing standard do not provide a specific materiality guideline to practitioners, and the professional judgment is to be used in all times setting and applying materiality guide. Okay. Right. Step 2. We are allocating the preliminary judgment about materiality to segments. يعني احنا in the first step we determined a total amount مثلا like what we said 100,000. طيب احنا بقى we have to divide the 100,000 over the financial statements. Okay, over the financial statements. طيب by determining something we call tolerable misstatement. Tolerable misstatement. The materiality allocated to any account used in the audit lab. يعني for example, I have preliminary materiality level 100, فأنا I will start to allocate them. Assets مثلا 50,000 amount of material misstatement. Liabilities 20. طب on what basis are we going to allocate the numbers ديت? Equity مثلا 10,000. We said it is based on the professional judgment of the auditor. Okay, professional judgment of the auditor. Okay, طيب يبقى actually here we have to have into consideration the nature of the account, the nature of risks to be faced by the company in the business. يبقى actually your understanding during the previous step were very important, because whenever you are going to allocate, you understood the business, you understood the operation, you assessed the risk, the inherent risk, the control risk. So now whenever you would like to allocate the preliminary judgment about materiality to segments, you will be able to do that based on your understanding of that. Right. The auditor faced 3 major difficulties in allocating materiality to balance sheet accounts, especially to balance sheet. Auditors expect certain accounts to have more misstatements than others, and we said due to the nature of some accounts, cash, inventory, account receivable are among the most susceptible accounts to risk. Okay, type. Both overstatement and understatement must be considered. يعني we cannot say that whenever we have an understatement of expenses, so this is good. لا. احنا we are looking for fair presentation. We need the truth. خلاص, we don't care بقى if that is overstated or understated. Okay, طيب. Relative audit cost affect the allocation, of course, because whenever you will allocate to more accounts, you will be in need for more staff. You will be in need for more time. So actually the cost here will affect your decision allocating the preliminary analytical procedure. طيب يبقى now we now determine what are the preliminary analytic preliminary materiality level. We allocated that into segments. Okay, so now we have to estimate the total misstatement and the preliminary judgment. Right. When auditor perform audit procedure for each segment of the audit, they keep a worksheet for all misstatement found. يعني whatever misstatement we are finding, we are going to record it. طيب احنا we have two main types of misstatement. Known misstatement, where auditor can determine the amount very easily. يعني I found مثلا an invoice sales invoice, the value was مثلا 100,000, by error it has been recorded as 10,000. يبقى this is a known misstatement because the difference is 90,000. So actually I know exactly the amount of the misstatement. طيب يبقى this is known misstatement. طيب what about the likely misstatement? Misstatements that arise from differences between management and auditor judgment about estimates of account balance. Okay, طيب يبقى actually here مثلا, for example, if we are talking about مثلا the allowance for doubtful account, the management see that the allowance for management account is 10% of the account receivable, and the auditor see it will be more realistic if it is مثلا 10% of the credit sales. يبقى actually here this is likely misstatement. There is a difference between the judgment of the auditor and the judgment of the company. So actually here this is likely misstatement because it is not totally mistaken, but actually this is the main issue to be discussed by the management and the auditor to reach for a conclusion. Okay, يبقى actually here this is خلاص a critical issue, a debatable issue, خلاص to be taken into consideration by both sides in order to reach for a conclusion. طيب. The projection of misstatement based on the auditor test of a sample from detailation. طيب انت دلوقتي you decided on the preliminary materiality, you allocated. Now you're estimating the total misstatement for each account. You have to make projection. How should I make projection? يعني for example, I took a total sample of sales, for example, 50,000. I found that the net misstatement in the sample is 3,500. Right. The actual sales in the income statement is 450,000. يبقى I'm expecting that 31,500 would be misstated in the sales. Right. It is now time for step 4 and 5, which is to estimate the combined misstatement and compare it with the preliminary judgment. يعني you now estimated, okay, the material misstatement or the misstatement, and you have now to combine all the misstatement from the different accounts, and you have to judge on that if it is material by compare it with the preliminary judgment. طيب the auditor used this is misstatement to estimate the total likely misstatement in inventory, like مثلا or in sales or whatever, like in step 3. The total is called an estimate or projection or extrapolation because only a sample rather than the entire was audited. Or projection because we based on the projection of the sample. Right. The projected misstatement amount for each account are combined on the worksheet. Step 4 بقى. I'm going to add all the estimated. يعني احنا we did that for مثلا sales, we did that for inventory, we did that for whatever. We have to combine all of those. And the combined likely misstatement is compared with materiality. يبقى احنا we are going to add whatever we have collected. We have مثلا collected 10,000, we have collected طبعا collected I mean يعني misstatement يعني have been found. هنا مثلا 15,000, another 5,000, So the total now of the likely misstatement مثلا is 2530 and the preliminary materiality level of materiality that we have determined is 100,000. So actually the misstatement here is not material. But if the addition exceeded the 100,000, in that case it is material. So we have again to take one of the two steps that we talked about, either to talk to the audit committee and the management, or to modify the type of the audit report that you would issue there. Right. Let's go and test your understand. By that we reached how to define risk in auditing. And actually this will be our topic for the next time inshallah.